What were some of the most critical items that were needed immediately after Hurricane Helene hit? Today's video, we're going to be discussing them. Hurricane Helene was a massive storm that hit Western North Carolina and Tennessee almost a month ago. Now that the internet and the power has been restored in many places up in Western North Carolina, I have been watching videos nonstop from that location. People that were there during the storm, people that were there for recovery, people that were there for rescue efforts, and I wanted to kind of jot down some ideas from them that they needed, that they said that they needed from this storm, from this event. So let's start off with the number one most critical item, water. You have got to have water. Water, water, water. There was water everywhere, but none of it was safe to drink. Water is a critical item. Again, the problem was that people weren't stocking up on water. Well, when the rescue efforts started coming in, bottled water was the number one most distributed and most donated item. The problem with bottled water is that yes, it is clean and safe to drink, but it is usually only enough water for one person for 3 days because each case normally contains about 3 gallons of water. Bottled water is great for short-term preps, but again, what are you going to do for these large preps? What are you going to do if it is 2 weeks without power and you've got 8, 10, 12 people living with you because the whole neighborhood lost everything? A case of bottled water to split between 5, 6, 7 people isn't going to do it. So now you need to start looking into these 55-gallon drums or 275 drums. For most people, they don't have the space to do that. And I understand they can't put a 55-gallon drum in their living room. They can't put a 275-gallon drum out in the garage. So that is where your water filtration purification methods need to come into play. A lot of people like to think that a life straw is the number one go-to way of providing clean, safe drinking water for them and their families. They put these in go bags, they put these in the bug out bags, and they say, hey, we have a life straw, we're good to go. It works, but I don't want to suck every single ounce of water that I'm ever going to drink for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks through a straw. There's no way to get dirty water into here and anywhere else unless you suck it. There's no way to take dirty water, run it through here and put it in a clean pot or a clean water bag. Instead of a life straw, I recommend having a flow through filter. Any of the Sawyer products, as far as the Sawyer Mini, the Sawyer Micro, the Sawyer Squeeze, or the Hydro Blue, or even the Hydro Blue jerry can that's right behind my head. These are flow through water filters. So instead of having to suck every single ounce of your water through, you can simply twist this onto a dirty water bag or even a 28 millimeter standard soda water bottle, and you can then have the dirty water and push it through into a clean pot, into your meal, into your buddy's container. You don't have to suck every ounce through. You can, but you don't have to. Personally, what I would recommend is buying the Hydro Blue VersaFlow kit. So you can buy the filter by itself or you can buy the kit. And even if you don't like Hydro Blue, I understand, hey, you want to buy an American product, great. You can go on their website and buy this little thingy right here. This is the bucket adapter. It comes in the kit for an extra $5, which is why I recommend it. You find yourself a 5-gallon bucket, a 10-gallon bucket, whatever you can find, and drill a 3/8 hole into it. You attach this on the inside, this on the outside, you screw them together. Then, in the kit comes with a hose, then you connect the hose to the Hydro Blue VersaFlow, the Sawyers. So with the bucket system, you are creating a hands-off, gravity-fed approach. Instead of having to worry about all your water being flowed through a 3-liter filter or a 20-ounce bottle, you can fill up 5 gallons at a time, 7 gallons at a time, 10 gallons at a time, you name it, and then just simply let this hang and it will flow your water. Now, all of these products you see on the table are going to remove the bacteria, the E. coli, the Giardia. The problem with the water up there was that not only did it have the items that these will remove in it, but it also had chemicals and potentially viruses, because who knows what was in that water. So now that we have our water filtered, we also need to carbon treat it and we need to sterilize it. Hydro Blue makes this very simple with their carbon element adapter. I think this thing is like $5 or $10. It'll filter 50 gallons of water, I do believe, and it simply attaches to the top of your VersaFlow. So now you have a 2-stage water filter. The Life Straw itself is a one-stage water filter, only the hollow fibers, but the Life Straw Go bottle does have a carbon element in it. The Sawyers, from what I've seen, none of their flow-through filters like this have a carbon element attachment, so kind of out of luck on that one. What you could do though is, let's say you wanted to use a Sawyer product, you bought this little bucket adapter, get you another 5-gallon bucket. Placed on top of the first 5-gallon bucket, put sand, charcoal, sand, charcoal, sand, charcoal, drill some little holes in the bottom. So then your water is running through layers and layers and layers of sand and charcoal, which is going to remove the oils, the greases, the gases, the chemicals out of that water, and then it will flow into your filters, okay? So now that our water has been treated for both the chemical component and the bacteria E. coli component, we need to find a way to sanitize it. We need to find a way to completely purify it and remove all of the viruses. With this bucket system right here, you can get a virus filter. Again, the bucket system is not cheap. So what is a cheaper option that we can use? You can chemically treat your water with something like bleach. I think it's 6 to 8 drops per gallon. Mix it up, wait 30 minutes, and it's safe to drink. It's going to kill all of the viruses that are in the water. You can do something like the P&G water packs. Each one of those packets will treat 2.5 gallons of clean-ish water. What do I mean by clean-ish water? If you go out there to a dirty, nasty pond, swamp thing, and there's crap floating all in the water, it's not going to treat 2.5 gallons of that water. But if you take your water and you filter it through here, you filter it through the sand and charcoal, you filter it through the carbon element, that water is going to be clean-ish. So then with the P&G water packet, you dump it in, stir it for 5 minutes, and it's going to drop anything that's in that water to the bottom. Anything on top is clean. You can also just boil your water. Build a fire, use a propane stove, an isobutane stove, some way of boiling the water, getting it to 212 degrees, waiting 1 minute, and now your water's safe to drink. The second most critical item that people needed to survive this event was a generator. Now, a lot of preppers and a lot of people will tell you that you don't need power to survive. You don't need electricity to survive. That's true, but your freezer does. The frozen food, the chicken nuggets, the steaks that you have in that freezer, it needs electricity to run the freezer to survive. You also need electricity to cook that food. Maybe you can cook in an open fire pit. Maybe you have some sort of solar oven like this one right here. But for most people, their ways of cooking involve electricity. A generator is a form of life insurance. Have it, make sure it works, make sure it's good, make sure it will do what you need it to do, and then have it when you have an emergency. Critical item number 3 and 4 are going to go together, and number 3 is gasoline. Gasoline was the most used fuel source during this whole event, and it makes sense. The people out in trucks and vehicles doing search and rescue, those require gas. The generators that were running, most of them required gas. The chainsaws that were running required gasoline. So one thing I noticed with gasoline and a lot of these videos I watched was that a lot of people didn't have storage capacity. And that leads me to item number 4, which is gas cans. People had generators and they had enough fuel in the generators to run that generator, and then what? Maybe they had a 1-gallon gas can that they use on the lawnmower. Maybe they had one 5-gallon gas can that they use. But that was about it. So even if they could go somewhere and get gas other than in their vehicle, they had no other way of storing up that gas. One thing that I noticed was a lot of people were running their generators 24/7 nonstop. My generator uses 1 gallon in 4 hours. So if you think about a 24-hour day, I need 6 gallons. So you need to understand how to run the generator. Can you limit the amount of gas you require by maybe turning the freezer off, by maybe turning the fridge off for a couple hours, by maybe not watching cartoons 24 hours, 7 days a week, by maybe not running the generator at night. Items number 5 and 6 go together, and this one kind of confused me and threw me for a loop, but I understand it now looking at it. Propane. Propane was the second largest fuel source passed out during the event, most times being passed out in either 1-pound propane cylinders or the 20-pound, used ones for the grill. Propane is great for cooking, propane is great for heating, and that goes to number 6, which was propane heaters. Less than a week after the storm hit, while people are still rescuing, people are still recovering, people are still collecting their thoughts and trying to make sense of what the hell just happened, the temperature dropped. And it wasn't a 5-degree drop, it wasn't a 10-degree drop, it was almost a 30 to 40-degree drop. So initially, when the request for rescue and recovery efforts were made, people were passing out propane as a source of cooking and a source of boiling and making water safe to drink. But quickly, that rotated, that turned, because they saw the weather and they said, oh crap, we got winter storms coming, we got winter elements coming, we need heaters. And so after the initial request, secondary requests were made for things like Mr. Buddy heaters. And I will tell you, a lot of people are willing to donate water. A lot of people are willing to donate food, buy a couple cases of diapers and wipes, send up there soap, shampoo. But when you talk about trying to donate a $200 Mr. Buddy heater, good luck getting them. Right after the storm hit, I saw one grocery store opened. I saw one gas station opened up there, and it was like a Publix. Luckily they had power and they were selling what they could, but it was cash only. Even my area was affected by cash only because our one grocery store in town happens to buy their stock and supplies from Western North Carolina, and we went cash only. So up next is communication and good critical information. Me and my dad got talking about it. He said, you know, I didn't even think, I don't even have a radio in my house. He said, I was having to step out to the car, turn it on, just to get radio information. Most of us, we use this thing right here as our radio. We have Spotify and iHeart and all these other channels on an app. But what happens when the internet goes down? Have a basic radio and make sure you can pick up your local radio stations. Up next is ham radio, GMRS, and walkie-talkies. Ham radios were critical during this whole event. And the FCC has not touched a single person that does not have a ham radio license. People are still using them up there today. You had one channel for police, one channel for rescue, one channel for fire, one channel for just people to call in and say, hey, somebody come save me, somebody bring me something. A huge critical item was chainsaws. Chainsaws and everything to go with them. Spare chains, files to get them chains sharp again, bar oil, fresh bars. Most people who own a chainsaw only have enough chains and equipment for some sort of small disaster on their road. I'm prepared to cut down a couple trees, but when you're talking about going miles and miles and miles just to clear your road, just so you could get rescue and recovery efforts in there, that burns through chains. That burns through the oil. That burns through the gas. So the last item, and we will kind of end this video, of critical items that were needed was one that I didn't think of, and that was Benadryl and Tylenol. Now, as preppers, we say, hey, stock up on medication. Awesome, great, good to go. And as preppers, we say, hey, if you are on a daily medication, have extra, medicines for that. But Benadryl is an over-the-counter medicine. You can get it in any pharmacy. It's not something I stock up on because I'm not allergic to things. Tylenol, sure, I have a couple jars of it, but it's not something I use on a daily basis. But some of the people I were watching said, hey, look, man, we were tearing up bottles of Benadryl a day. We were tearing up bottles of Tylenol and ibuprofen a single day. The Benadryl was for the yellow jackets and the hornets and the bees. When this storm came through, it disrupted a lot, not just human population, but the animal population as well. So the people that were over cutting trees, clearing houses, doing all this stuff, were getting stung by yellow jackets, but were getting stung by bees. Same thing with Tylenol. A lot of people are not used to recovery efforts and what that actually means. That means going out every day, cutting down trees, going out every day, clearing roads, going out every day with shovels and ditches and digging ditches and trenches and doing X, Y, and Z. Manual labor is not something that most people know of nowadays. So going out here and putting in work every single day to help your area recover, that's going to take it out of you. All right, guys, so this is a very long video and I appreciate you guys watching it. I do understand that I'm going to be missing some stuff. Some people's going to say, well, what about arms and ammunition? What about batteries and flashlights and headlamps? Yeah, those stuff were needed. That stuff was used, right? Every person, Tom, Dick, and Harry up there that could be armed was armed. Every person up there that could have a flashlight and batteries had a flashlight and batteries. But what about the critical life-saving items? That's kind of what I wanted to focus on, whether it was for recovery and whether it was for rescue and recovery efforts, or whether it was for personal reasons. That's kind of the stuff that I wanted to focus on. I'm going to change my preps to make sure that these critical items that I've talked about are covered, and covered heavy. Because again, my area is very similar to the areas that were affected and hit in Western North Carolina and Tennessee. So if they're having yellow jacket problems up there, we're going to have them here. If they're having gasoline problems up there, we're going to have them here. If they're having cash problems up there, we're going to have them here if we get hit. I know a lot of people have forgotten about this storm, but the people up there who are still affected by it, they haven't forgotten. So it's going to take years for some of those places to recover. And again, they're still missing thousands of people. So keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. Again, if you can donate, please donate. If you can donate time, more than welcome to it. But yeah, anyway, that's all I got for today's video. Again, I understand it's long. I appreciate you guys watching. That's all I got. Y'all take care. T2 out.